Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Exandria Unlimited campaign wrap-up.
Yep.
Only an hour and 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
To me, the best parts didn't start until probably like 40 minutes in.
Okay.
When the players started asking each other questions. Not that Mauritius' questions were bad, because some of them I wanted to know.
Right.
You know, like her asking the newbies, what do you think?
Yeah.
How was this experience for you?
Yeah.
And them both saying, it's the best thing ever. I don't know why.
Yeah, why'd I wait?
Yeah. I loved Liam's, after they discussed how much they paid for dice.
Yeah.
And Abria had sort of a put on fainting spell when Amy's like, I spent $200 on the one set.
Yeah.
Liam saying, on a scale of me to Laura Bailey.
Yes, the nice fifth question.
Yeah, and I love the way that he phrased it. It is odd how we imbue the dice with attitudes or things like that.
Yeah.
It always cracks me up because I'm fairly bullheaded atheist, I think is a fair.
Okay.
But even I ascribe moods to the dice.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, one of the things we say here is the dice know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We establish some, even if we don't, like, at least for me, fully believe it, like in our brains and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's the random chance. It is random chance, and humans like to find patterns.
Yes. Yes. That's the truth of it. Yeah. It's the retroactively trying to piece things together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciated the behind the curtain look of Abria discussing playing Gilmore specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yes, in that intro interview that she gave, she talked about how
Exciting and terrifying, and
yeah, and she reiterated that at the beginning of the question,
right.
but she specified and gave us insight into the lead up of playing Gilmore.
Yeah.
And how that was, she didn't sleep the night before.
Going back and watching the old scenes and writing down phrases.
Yeah. And Matt relating what I alluded to in the first episode, discussing episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling of having somebody play in a world that you designed.
Yeah.
And how surreal an experience that can be.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt related that.
Yeah.
About getting to meet Gilmore. And yeah, I think he expressed it well, but I think there was probably some. Definitely on the drive home after the recording, the wrap up, he thought of something else he could have said.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what that something else is,
I can see that.
But yeah, just the way that he was occasionally struggling to find the right phrase.
Well, I mean, it is. It's both very exciting, but also anxiety-inducing to either run in a world that someone else created with that person at the table, or bringing someone's beloved character back. Is it? It's there's something about that because I think I know for me, and I think most DMs, it's you are excited to bring this piece of your D&D lore that someone else you're bringing that back to them and but you don't want to just totally
you don't want to mess it
scrap
up.
Their it's got to be yours, but it's got to be theirs. And that's just and every time I do something like I want to know how they thought. Did I do okay? Did I honor what they created?
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways, and I wonder if Abria did this, and if she didn't, it's arguably too late, but if you are in a similar situation, to go back and look at some of the interviews that Zachary Quinto was giving when they were filming the first Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was before. Maybe it was after it was announced that he was cast.
Right.
And when he was meeting with Leonard a lot. And sort of seeing how he dealt with that.
Yeah.
Because there's several interviews where he talks about it, and the pressure that he felt, and the encouragement that Leonard gave him, and the insights that he was able to sort of pick Leonard's brain about, which I don't think Abria did.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to tip her hand.
Yeah.
Because Matt talked about how he didn't think it was a possibility.
Yeah.
And as events began to unfold, he's like, "Oh, this might happen." Whereas if she would have, "Let me pick your brain," that would have given it away.
Yeah, not been that way.
Yeah. So I could see why she didn't, but yeah. I got an insight into Anjali.
Okay.
In this campaign wrap-up that I hadn't gotten before. And that was because I've always been impressed by her level of mechanics knowledge.
Yeah.
Despite it being said she's a new player. And in this wrap-up, we got to see why. Rose.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly what I meant by you have to keep it theirs but make it yours.
So character backstory stuff, I don't get quite so nervous about. Especially because it's how much they give to me. I'll ask a couple questions, and once I am comfortable with that level of knowledge, that's it.
Yeah. And well, I think probably most of us at the table, like the Critical Role table, and they say, when developing, like to leave enough open for whoever's DMing, whether it's you or me, to be able to play with,
Yeah. Well, and the big cushion of comfort is how much time has passed since the player has interacted with this person.
Right.
Because a lot of things can change. And if the interaction that you are planning is some sort of quest-giving behavior, any nervousness that you have, you could play into, because they're gonna, maybe they're unsure about whether or not they're gonna get help. Maybe they're nervous about, you know, the situation that they're in. And that was one of the cushions that Abria had with Gilmore. It had been a very long time since anyone had seen him.
Yeah, 30 years.
Yeah, so any minor change or mistake or anything like that, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I think she managed to get, and we said so during the episode, during our review of it, I think she managed to pull Gilmore off really well.
Yes.
Which is a testament to her fandom being evident, and the extra prep that she did. So yeah, but Anjali's system mastery being a byproduct, as she said, I'm an Indian.
Yes.
She has to study. So I was like, oh, okay. It's funny and it makes sense.
Yeah.
We got more explanation and exploration of Dorian and Orem mutual love society.
Yeah.
And how they both were interested in watching and experiencing that dynamic play out. And Matt, or not Matt, excuse me, Liam mentions finding friends at the table.
Yeah.
In the nooks and crannies, as he put it.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting, because a lot of people, when they are trying to put together a group, only look at their friend group that they already have.
Yeah.
And some people are very resistant to having new people come in. And I don't think Liam dispelled that notion for people in his 2 minutes of loving how the game brings people together and everything. But it's certainly a clip that you could point to say, let's give randos a try.
Yeah.
And interesting that they had a group chat.
Yep.
The impression that I got was they probably filmed this series over 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, with a gap in there.
Maybe.
So, like, the Critical Role group chat makes sense. They play every week.
Right.
And stuff.
Well, I don't think it was a group chat about the game itself.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, because Abria was in it. No, I mean, just the way they talk, they were like they like still have it going on. It's like their little friend group.
Yeah, that's fair. Liam expressing gratitude for giving them the space to breathe.
Yep.
You let us breathe. And giving props to Amy and Robbie. That they were down for the headbutting.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because we remarked a few times about that how sometimes it seemed fairly focused and other times not at all.
Yeah.
And that gets back to what they were saying is she let them breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It gave them the chance to do that. The other thing that I found interesting that I wanted to touch on was the pressure of set pieces. And we talked about it a little bit during the run.
Mm-hmm.
Of Bria seemingly having pressure to use the map that she has in front of everybody.
Mm.
And for most of the episodes, for most of the maps, they were uncovered and there already.
Yeah.
Only a couple times did she have them covered. And we heard how she was real nervous that they weren't going to go south.
Yep.
So I was like, yeah. And that's sort of the downside of the miniature.
Yeah.
That unless you can build it real quick, having those, like Matt at Critical Role has a luxury, I think, now.
Yeah.
Because he basically has those, as I understand it, he has those maps on a baker.
Yeah, like a
tray.
Tray.
Yeah, on half pans.
Yeah.
I think it's probably covered.
Probably.
I don't think the players are allowed in the room, though. Like, the most I've ever heard is them going to the door.
I think it's a general no, but I do recall, I think it was Liam, after doing a one-shot, where he was excited because he had gotten to go and be in the office and play with the maps and create his own. Yeah. So when they are, they're not allowed in there, but with the caveat that if they're running something, they get to go and play with the map room.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's... And most people just... I don't think most people have that kind of room.
Yeah.
To do that.
Well, most people don't have their own studio offices.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And Anjali's talking about how she felt like she was Chris Farley's SNL character.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that time that you did? Yeah, that was cool. And I was like, yeah. And they sort of gave her validation at the table. But I also was like, yeah, no, we're all Chris Farley.
Yeah.
I mean, a bit of self-awareness. That's basically what this show is.
Yeah.
But yeah. Abria talked about table trust and storytelling in a way that I don't think has ever really been codified on any of their content before.
Yeah.
Because they've talked about trust and, improving and being storytellers and virtue that they've talked about each piece of what Abria said, but she put it together in a way that I don't recall anyone else ever doing.
In a unique perspective.
Which is, I have my story, and the magic for me is trusting the players without me having to spoon feed them. Have them uncover the story that I have.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. An interesting way to put it, and a different way to frame that trust.
Right. We'll both segueing off that trust, but also circling back to the playing in a world someone else has created by Rodin. And Matt, hey, it was there. Didn't really have it fleshed out because I never thought they would go there.
Yeah.
Didn't have anything. So.
And once again, reiterating bandwidth for the GM. But you don't have to do everything out all at once. It's only what you need.
Yep. Which we touched on last week with in our talk.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but the what you were talking about earlier, the retroactive fitting.
Yeah, retroactive. That's one of
them. With now I'm trying to picture vaxing that town, and now it makes sense why they turned out the way they did.
Yeah, and that's one of Liam's favorite things about discovering who the character is at the table, and I think that was part of his reasoning behind when he was talking to Robbie about, because Robbie's talking about how his journey with Dorian was very much like his build and his initial thoughts coming in, nothing like that at the table.
Yeah.
It all changed, and Liam was like, yeah, you might have all this stuff, prepared in your backstory. You could have very detailed backstory written, and once you're at the table, some is out the window.
Yeah.
And yeah,
no backstory survives first contact with the campaign.
Yeah. For real.
To paraphrase.
And I liked that Liam made the same observation that we did.
Yep.
There's something in the water that makes twins in that town.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in my argument, it's not a big town.
Yeah.
Twins running in families. Yeah. So, yeah, for there to be multiple sets of twins from a small town.
It does beg the question.
Plausible, but not so common that you're like,
Yeah. I did appreciate Amy giving some love to Abria and expressing appreciation and love of the magic trick of the DM.
Yeah.
Whether you have it spelled out precisely, a rough idea, or nothing, and you just make it up as you go.
Yep.
That Amy couldn't tell what parts were what.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that, especially after this Sunday session. When I let you guys know that, that part that you guys said you liked the best?
Yeah.
In the moment, off the top of my head. Which I guess means I violated Matt Colville's latest running the game advice when he says you should never reveal.
Eh. I think it depends on the DM player relationship.
That's fair.
I mean, we're all pretty good friends. We're all DMs,
Yeah.
of some degree or another, and we rotate
Yeah.
through DMs.
Yeah.
You know, actually, very much not a normal thing for D&D groups.
That's true.
And
That is
if
true.
normal D&D groups, if you're always the DM and you're running, especially long time you don't want to ruin that magic for them.
That's fair.
But all of us have done it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something about the type of person that is drawn to being a DM, it's a common thread, or if it's just a common skill we end up having to develop. But, we're all improv performers, even more so than just being a player.
Yeah.
Because when you're a player, every week, you've got the same person.
Yeah.
And you're growing as that person and discovering that person, and you're just worried about that person.
Yeah.
When you're the DM, just, put that to a couple powers of 10.
Yeah.
But then they don't really grow because you're different people every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Only the story can evolve.
Yes.
Yeah. We talked about what brief, if any, did Abria give them when creating their characters. And we got one answer to that. And I don't think it was the entire brief. It was just relevant in the moment that they were discussing. And part of the brief was, this is going to be your first encounter with power.
Yep.
I am willing to go out on a limb and say that was not the brief for everybody. And if it was, Liam interpreted it in a very special way.
Here's my thought. I think they were given a small group briefing and then a more individualized thing.
Okay.
And I think that was part of the small group briefing, because she didn't say when you said this, she said when you told us this, implying that they were all together when she said, this is your first encounter with power.
That's fair, yeah.
So I think that was like the nugget, but then because everyone was creating their characters in a vacuum, she went ahead and talked with each person individually.
Okay. One of the things that I was shocked by, and I don't know if I'm crazy or if Matt didn't remember, but they asked him about Tharla Star. And Matt says, I don't know where she came from. Or I don't know where that came from. And I was like, I swear she was mentioned, like we talked about it. Like,
yeah.
And, I mean, memory is a funny thing. And I could just convince myself that he had mentioned her before.
And again, I would have to go back and watch the episodes.
Yeah.
And see.
But that was kind of shocking for me. Matt going, I don't know. But, I mean...
Well, and in your defense, Matt has done things like that before. He's said things and then later been like, well, I forgot I said this before. or he's, different things like that.
Yeah.
And he's corrected himself. So, in your defense, it's not like it would be the first time that's happened.
It's fair. But yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I sort of pat myself on the back a little bit because I filled in all those details.
Yeah.
And it's basically like the way that I kind of think about it, the disconnect is sort of the campaign 1 and 2 events that are depicted are the film, are Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And then stuff that happens between campaigns off screen, or as mentioned, like Tharla Star was, are the Kenner toys.
Okay.
That are canon, but there's no evidence for anything on any of those information cards in any of the films.
Right. Okay.
So in my head, I'm like, it can still be canon that she was with Dr. Dransel.
There you go. See,
It's
in
the
my
Kenner
brain,
toys.
when you started that analogy, and you're like, the first 2 campaigns are like Star Wars. I thought you were going to go off and, EX2 is like Galaxy Quest.
I don't think I would.
I mean, it's a better Star Trek movie than most Star Trek movies. But, yeah. Anything?
I loved when I was watching it live. For the longest time, I kept wondering when Ashley was going to say anything. And Ashley is usually quiet.
Yeah.
And I think in her...
Between the sheets.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Brian mentions how she's the type that will be quiet and listen and come in with, the hard-hitting, blow-your-mind statements. And so I was kind of waiting for that, and she did that. We got that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is when I think the episode really took off for me, at about the 40-minute mark. Which once Ashley started talking, brought the focus onto Fern and her,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's love for Fern. I enjoyed the heck out of that.
Yeah.
Rose, speaking of the interesting that they have multiple pre-games, was what I read is the implication that Liam was scouting Abria. Because he mentions it once, but he talks about he only played one Zoom game with her.
Mm-hmm.
And on and off, I've been thinking about the logistics of how they picked Abria. And they said things here and there at different points that what I think the process was them saying, we need something that 1 to 3 of us might be involved in, but that gives the rest of us a block of time to take off. What do we want that to be, and who do we want to be involved? And then it became, let's make our list of people, and it's not hard for them to get that list.
No.
And then watch some of their content. And I don't know if more than Liam went to play with different people. But to my mind, that's the easiest way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Is, hey, someone reaching out, either them or intermediary, they want to play. Do you mind if they drop in?
Yeah.
For a sesh? And of course, almost no one's going to say no.
Right.
So they drop in, see how they work, come back, they discuss it. Now they have essentially a reel
Mm-hmm.
for everybody, and then they start talking scheduling.
Yeah.
With the top 3, maybe. If it even was that many, because it might not have been that many. It may have also been, we have 2 to 3 people that we're interested in, and it's a short list to begin with, and scheduling worked out however it worked out.
Right.
Which in the pandemic, coming out, this was filmed in June or July, maybe August last year.
Yeah.
Because Marisha mentions that it was 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So if it was 8 weeks of shooting.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think it was just, there were a lot of new moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
For them to do this.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me to learn that they reached out to Brendan Mulligan, Dimension 20, because they do a lot of their stuff with post effects.
Yeah.
They add sound effects, music sometimes, on their stuff. And I think they probably, and that's also one thing that Abria has, because she's worked with them before.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to keep bugging the other people for it, input or whatever. And actually admiring how Abria came in and took over.
Yeah.
By way of almost sort of apologizing, sort of not, admitting, especially for Liam and me, always we're just trained to look to Matt.
Conditioned to look to Matt. Matt's like, I didn't condition him. It just Matt's like, nope, I did not.
Yes, but also no.
Right. Because if you're someone's DM for that long,
yeah,
they're conditioned to look to you.
Yeah, and you're at the table playing. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was sort of earth-shattering for me. Some of it felt a little press toury.
Okay.
They're all actors, so when you go on a press tour after the project, you fluff the project up a little bit or smooth over any difficulties you had. Yeah. Not that I'm trying to manufacture conflict there, but yeah.
Yeah. Rose, to your comment, he may use a sword, but for me, like the biggest nugget dropped in this episode. And before I hit that, there's one thing about the wrap up in general that kind of spoke to me. Not that we hadn't heard it before, or it's news, but it just the way it was portrayed, it's just so. And that's just everybody's genuine appreciation for each other. They're all talking about how great it was to watch, and in Matt's like, in the way you did this, and just that sort of just and just the watching of the new players and how they react. And then Amy said it. She's like, well, that's because we looked to you and you gave us permission.
Yeah.
You gave us permission to jump into it with both feet, and I thought that was just, awesome. And one of the reasons I love playing with new people. I'm getting ready to plan out a one-shot for some people who, a friend of ours asked me to do it for her and 2 other people who've never played Call of Cthulhu. So I get to induct them into Cthulhu. So I'm pretty excited about that.
You'll enjoy yourself, no doubt.
Yes. But Liam, when Matt, gushes about Liam and just that descriptive, sword play and everything, Liam makes the statement that, Orem was not the typical fighter and stuff. And he goes, at first with campaign 1, I played a rogue, but a rogue that just went straight in and straight up to people, which is not what rogues are supposed to do. And then I played a wizard who hated himself and was a coward, and wizards are stereotypically ego-tripping, god complex types. And he's like, now I'm a fighter, but I'm built him as support, and he's more of a ballet dancer than anything. And then he says, I'm just working through the 4 core classes of D&D. And I was like, Liam's playing a cleric in campaign 3. Rogue, wizard, fighter, cleric, the 4 iconic D&D roles. He obviously isn't counting the one-shots where he's played a cleric, because he says, I'm working, not I've worked through.
I'm kind of with Rose. I think he's going to be a fighter in campaign 3. Or if he is a cleric, he's probably going to be a war cleric.
And so you can be a war cleric. The clerics there's plenty of clerics that can use swords.
Yeah.
War, Twilight, all of them that get, the
martial weapons,
which is quite a few of them, actually.
Yeah.
Life cleric.
But yeah, I don't think his stint of fighter is done. I don't know. I got the feeling he was probably going to be a fighter again.
My money is he's going to be a cleric. He may multi-class into fighter, but my money says he's going to be cleric.
Okay.
Yes, he will definitely find a way to make it not the standard class, which is what he loves doing. I love doing that kind of thing.
Do you think... Well, yes, there's room. So, because my question was, do you think there's room for him to do that with the fact that we've had Pike, Jester, and Caduceus?
Oh, yes.
I mean, yes, the obvious answer to that is yes, there's room.
Especially if he just picks a different domain.
Yeah.
I mean, Forge Cleric wouldn't be like any of those 3. Or possibly Pike the most, but...
Yeah. Um,
But I don't know. My money says he's going to be a cleric. I'm making that my campaign 3 prediction.
Okay.
The only thing that I am sold on for campaign 3, other than that Liam is at least admitting to picking Sam's racing class this time. He says this is the first time he's made it. This is what you're doing.
yeah. Well, I think for Sam, I think he enjoys that.
Yes.
Because, like, there's a lot of people who say you should let your players play whatever they want,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is. And I always come back to an interview that I saw with the original Wile E. Coyote cartoons. That they had an extensive list of things that they were absolutely not allowed to do.
Okay.
And it wasn't like, not even censor stuff. It was just, our show is not going to do these things.
Okay.
One of them, Coyote never catches a roadrunner. He always walks away. And he's only hurt by his own
devices.
Yeah.
Machinations, yeah.
But this interview that they were talking about, and all the other Hanna-Barbera and those cartoons, that one of the things that they, like, looking back, what birthed a lot of their creativity were those limitations.
Mm.
And I think Sam, that's his limitation.
Okay.
That he finds comfort in the creative process in.
Yeah. I can totally see that. I think on the question of let players play what they want, I'm under the opinion as long as it's logistical for the world, yeah, let them play any race class combo they want. You know, if it's Eberron, you can play anything because that's the idea of Eberron. Everything exists there.
Yeah.
If I'm playing on Araku, I'm going to limit my to those races because that's what's established is there.
Yeah.
For me, much like Sam, I prefer randomness. You have your tables, your roll, and sometimes I just get this concept and I want to play this concept. I am a big fan of rolling my stats, typically in order, randomly deciding my race and background, and building the character out of those parts that I'm given.
Yeah. The exercise of explaining the random results from tables is a lot of fun for me.
And in fact, and I've been thinking, like, if my current character dies, I'm going to roll a D4, because there's 4 other people at our table besides me. And whoever it lands on gets to pick my race. I'm going to roll again. Whoever it lands on gets to pick my background stuff. Yeah. Roll again, and the third person gets to pick my class.
Yeah.
Just to see what stuff people will come up with. Because with our table, they're definitely going to try to pick things that will stretch me that I don't normally do. Or that.
Yeah. Or that they think don't go together.
That either they don't go together, or they think, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited for that.
I shall endeavor to hasten your dream.
I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm just saying if it happens.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm not out trying to be suicidal with my current character.
No, and I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could kill him if I wanted to. Let's be honest. Yeah, and I think I'm trying to remember. I had an impression, possibly what Ashley might be planning when I watched it live. I didn't write it down, and now I can't remember what it was. And I can't even pinpoint what specific part of the episode it was that I had the impression.
Yeah. I don't remember.
But it was just like, oh, okay. And whatever thought went through my head, I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And now I don't remember it because, like I said, I didn't write it down. So, yeah, I think Ashley had a lot of fun with Druid.
Yeah.
And I kind of, well, now I'm just thinking about what I'd like to see her play, and I kind of want to see her play a Dragonborn. Because we haven't had one since Tiberius. And not really many, well, no, we had Archon. But I don't know if I consider Archon Exandria Dragonborn, because he's not.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Joe's played Archon, or a version of Archon, for a long time.
And he's in Avernus right now.
Yeah. Like, I consider Archon to be from Kryn.
Okay, I can see that.
So, yeah. But anyway, to have a Dragonborn play a Dragonborn post the Chroma Conclave and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Especially if it's in Marquette. You got the Jimon Sword thing.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And a Dragonborn gets a bonus to Charisma, so leans into that high Charisma. And I'd love to see that too. I don't know that we will, because I don't think that's one of the things in Ashley's comfort zone. So it would have to be a deliberate choice to play out of.
Which she kind of did with Fern.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one of the things that Matt and her both in Exandria Unlimited sort of went into is, I want to be more like Travis.
Yeah.
I want to play a character more like Travis played Grok. And they both channeled that in their own way.
Yeah.
A Dragonborn Paladin for Ashley.
Yeah.
Because she tends to favor the tanky.
Yes.
The tanky and support. Pike was a tank and a healer.
Yeah.
So, and Yasha, tank.
Had healing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, a paladin is a tank and has healing.
Yeah. And I think, no disrespect to Travis, but I think she will make a better paladin than Travis did.
Or Liam.
I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, Liam wasn't a typical paladin.
Oh, no.
But
Liam is never
like,
a typical anything.
He was a very good vengeance paladin. Like, he fit that mold pretty well.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was very much a believer. Where Travis never dove too deeply into faith.
Well, you can dive a lot deeper with 9 levels than 3. Yeah. Well, a ranger. I don't know about the hunter.
She did seem to enjoy having Mister, yeah. And again, that was an interesting choice on how to do the fire spirit,
Mm-hmm.
which we talked about. I actually have my doubts we'll ever see a ranger again.
Do you have a specific reason behind that? Or is it just your hunch?
Because they have now experienced having a pet outside of being a ranger.
Mm.
I don't think we'll ever see a ranger again. Of course, I say that, and I'll probably, eat crow, as they will announce that one of them is playing a ranger. But
it's an all-ranger party.
There are too many changes that have happened to the ranger that I don't think any of them want to dive into that mechanical minefield.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think we'll see a ranger. If we do, it might be Taliesin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely more of a gut feeling than anything.
Gotcha.
I kind of hope that Laura is going to get to do her rogue or warlock. Because in campaign 1, she missed the rogue because Liam called it.
Right.
And she missed warlock because Travis wanted it.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see her get her first choice this time. And then it's probably one of those.
Okay.
But she may not. She may go for something totally different.
I no evidence behind this. I just really want to see her as a bard.
Yeah.
I think her playing a bard would almost be the perfect mix of Vex and Jester.
Yeah.
And I want to see that.
Yeah. With that, we'll call this episode to an end. We will see you guys next week.
Like